So I think a lot of the time there's a question about whether debt is a good thing. Is debt good? Is debt bad? And I think most of us are raised, especially if we're in families that are trying to be financially, fiscally responsible and whatnot, that the debt is not a good thing. The debt is a bad thing. The debt is something that enslaves you, that does not help you in your journey on life. And as you look at some of the financial gurus out there, guys like Dave Ramsey and there's Susie Orman, and they're constantly telling you to cut your credit cards up, to stay out of debt, to try and pay cash for everything, that don't spend that extra money and go to Starbucks every day or whatever it might be. Save, 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 don't spend, and avoid debt like the plague. And that's kind of, I think, how a lot of us are brought up, and there's this misperception of debt always being a bad thing. And I think if you look at debt from a personal perspective, you're in that retail store and save 15%, but you're gonna get charged 20% interest if you sign up for this retail store credit card. That's not something that's good, right? That's something that just takes your money, it costs you money, it is obviously not a great thing. And that's kind of the context that as entrepreneurs, we often look at debt and think that it's just bad. And the problem with that ideology is you have to begin to think like a business owner and an entrepreneur, and you have to separate your consumer and your personal life. And so from a personal standpoint, you do want to avoid debt. It doesn't help you. It doesn't make you money. That retail store credit card, that card that you use to pay for a vacation or buy expensive clothes or whatever it is, that's not making you money. But in a business context, when you're clear over here on the business side, well, that's completely different, right? If I take out $20,000 to put into a marketing campaign or get a piece of equipment that my business needs, and I know with those things I can generate $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in new sales, and I can make a return on that money, on that debt for a business, well, that's good debt. And so you've got to understand that debt can be good for a business while it's almost never good personally. And so you have to separate your personal and business life and live that way. And that's the misnomer out there that debt is always bad when it can be so powerful. And all I have to do is look at my own experience, right? I remember I started a home loan finance company when I was 25. And didn't have a lot of capital on hand. Through a whole bunch of creative financing, I was able to get $40,000, and that business generated over $2 million in revenues over the next 2 years. And so that's a pretty good return on your money, right? To take $40,000 out in debt and to generate $2 million, that's pretty good. And I look at this business here, FundWise, I think we took out about $60,000 in debt to start it. And within 2 years, the business has done well over $5 million in sales. So again, that's a pretty good return on your investment. And then there's other examples way more powerful than mine, right? You've got Under Armour that was started on $40,000 in credit card debt, right? Dave Ramsey, I'm sure, probably wouldn't recommend that. And yet Under Armour is now a multi-billion-dollar company, and Kevin Plank will tell you in no uncertain terms, in fact, on the Under Armour website, that's part of the story, right? That he was able to build this massively successful business based on having $40,000 to develop the product and the fabric and do the first sales, for the Under Armour apparel and material. And so that's where you get to understand that debt can be so powerful, for a business, and while it's not necessarily good personally. And then I think some of my other mentors, Grant Cardone, who we do financing for his clients, he has, I think 6,000 apartment units, hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate that he owns. And in order to accumulate all those apartments, he didn't spend, $600, $700 million cash to do it. He probably financed, 70% or 75% of those apartment buildings, and he's making massive cash flow, and he wouldn't without the debt that's attached to it. And so if you have debt on a business that's paid for by others, that's paid for by your business, by tenants in an apartment building, that's good debt. If you have debt that you're holding personally that just takes your money every month, not good debt, right? But sometimes we have to get where we need to personally. And so when you can begin to understand how debt is good and can be powerful for a business while not necessarily good personally, and make that differentiation. Now you have a chance to be successful. And entrepreneurs that don't learn this concept are going to hold their growth back. There's just no question about it. When you have the extra growth capital, it makes all the difference in the world. So learn about the power of debt and put it to use in your business.